Welcome to the Velocity Tuning channel. This video is all about what's needed to make over 1000 BHP in your G80 M3. It's going to be 8 main parts that are needed, and if you want to get that big 4-digit number, we're going to go through the pros and cons of all the options, because if you've tried to spec one of these builds, you'll see it can get a little bit confusing out there. Let's get to it. So the first 3 modifications that are going to be required if your car's already stage 2, you're not going to need. Before you start changing loads of parts on your car, you're going to need to unlock your ECU. If you change lots of parts, they all need to be calibrated in, and for you to calibrate them, this ECU needs to be tunable. Step 1, ECU unlock. Second on our list of changes and modifications, you're going to want to put on either MHD or Boot Mod 3. They're both very similar platforms with their own pros and cons. This car actually runs on MHD, and the reason why it runs on MHD is because it integrates fully with Reflex, but Boot Mod do have their Rev 2 board, so you can do just as much as either or of the platforms, but personally, I'm quite happy with the MHD, and you won't go far wrong with either one you choose. By putting these packages on your car, even if you want to have a custom map, they unlock loads of extra features. That could be control of the Reflex, map switching, or just giving you things that are quite fun like anti-lag. Your ECU's unlocked and you've got a tune on it, but your car still sounds dead quiet, so that takes us over to the third modification that's going to be required, and that is the exhaust system. In my hand, I have a set of downpipes here, but the biggest, most common mod that we do on these cars is fitting mid-pipes, mainly because it sounds great, it frees up a little bit of power, and you can have it installed without having to flash the car. But for you guys that want to make big power, remember, an engine is an air pump, and if you've got a load of restrictions in that exhaust, you're never going to make 1000 BHP. When it comes to the exhaust system, there's plenty of options out there, but they don't actually differ as much as you'd think. When it comes to the downpipes, you've got decatted, sports cats, ceramic coated, heat shielded, but they're all about the same. Now, if you've got a sports cat, of course you could get through your MOTs, but they don't sound much quieter than a decat, and they flow amazingly well as well. If you use a high quality sports cat, you can still make 1000 brake. When it comes over to that midsection, you can go for what our car's got, which is a full velocity tuning titanium system, or you could do a big single mid-pipe, which is our biggest seller for the G80s, and we do that as a non-resonated and a resonated version, or we even see some people with equal length systems. It doesn't matter too much. An engine is an air pump, and as long as you've got a system that flows well, you're going to make good power. We've got all the common well-known stuff out of the way that all you stage 2 guys are going to have already, so let's move on to the more important bits and the top 5 things you're going to have to add on top of your stage 2 to be able to make that big 1000 BHP. So the fourth step in this whole process, and the main one to keep everything held together, forging the engine. There is no point running all this power on a stock engine because it's never going to last forever. You would have seen that we ran 1030 brake on this car, and we've done it for just under a year, but if we raced and pushed it enough, at some point it would have likely had a failure. So if you want to make big power, do it the right way and build the engine. As you see here, I have actually, out of this car, it's standard piston and rod from cylinder 6. Now, look how thin that rod is. You want to go and put 1000 brake over 1000 Newton meters of torque for it. That can bend, and some companies say that the stock pistons are good, and yeah, they're okay, they're made by Mile Motorsport, but they're nothing compared to the forged ones. A forged one is going to be able to take more heat, more pressure, and what you don't want to do is spend all that money on an engine, and for what you could have paid for a set of pistons, you end up having a ringland crack. So if you want to make that power and you want to do it in a reliable way, then you want to forge the engine. Talking of doing it once, you would have seen that it weren't actually us that built the engine on this car, it was BM Minitech, and they've done a fantastic job. The car's been very reliable and it's been making great power. But the 1114 brake this one is making, we've got a little bit bored of it, and we're looking at ways to make extra power. So when it comes to a forged engine, you've got the basic forged engine, which is in this car right now, which is rods and pistons. Everything else is B&W standard. We've got no different head gaskets or head bolts. All the head is completely standard, so the valves and the cams, everything is as B&W made it, except for that rod and piston, which we consider to be the weak point. But when you see some of these really fast G80s out there that are running 1500 brake, they've had more done to the engine. Like this. They've had cams put in them. So we've got some stage 2 cams here. We've got uprated valves. We're going to have the seats recut. We want to put fire rings in the top, and we're thinking about even sleeving the block and ARP studding the mains. That's going to make that block as strong as it can be. And then if we can maximise the potential of some new turbos that we've got coming and we're going to be testing, on this setup, we can then switch out to a cam setup and see exactly what the difference is between them. Because as far as I've seen, there's no one out there that has done a big hybrid job or a single job and then after done cams and seen what the difference is. So we've actually made some big changes down here. We've got workshop 1, which I'm in now, which is velocity tuning. We've got workshop 2, which is our parts place, where we've got VTP. We do a lot of downpipes, a lot of mid pipes and a lot of turbos. And we've now got workshop 3, which is where we do all our gearbox builds and engine builds for these S58s. You've built the engine, the car's ready to take big power, but is it? Not quite. You're going to need to build the gearbox as well. These have got an 8 HP 76 in them, and once you start to run big power, you can have issues, especially in 6th gear, as I found out. I actually come and found out that I could run amazing 100 to 200s, but once I went into 6th gear, issues would occur. Your 100 to 200s, you can keep them in the low 4s, you can make about 900 brake, and the gearbox will pretty much be maxed out, but hold on. Once you push into those 4 digits, you're going to find issues in the higher gears. So what's the solution? A gearbox build. We offer stage 2 Cotty gearboxes here, and we've ran one in this car all year without trouble. Jamie from Officially Gassed, he's just had one of our boxes go into his car as well. We've done them on M5s, and some of the other big YouTubers out there, we're looking to put these clutches into their cars later in the year. We've got billet hubs so they can take more power. It's not just the clutch plates that are getting upgraded on these stage 2 kits, and they can run big torque. It doesn't matter if we do the single turbo conversion on this car later in the day and we end up really ramping up the torque and the horsepower. This kit is going to hold on for us. So this is where it starts to get expensive. When you look at the engine build and the gearbox builds and the turbos and the fuel systems and of course all your normal stage 2 bits, this is where you start to see the price difference between what a 700 and 800 brake car costs and something that's making over 1000 BHP. But it's imperative that you get it done, and the way these things drive once they've got the gearbox built on them is pretty fun. Modification 6, and that is the turbo. As previously mentioned, an engine is just an air pump. The quicker it can get the air in and the faster it can get it out, the more horsepower you are going to make. But when it comes to deciding what turbo you're going to put on a car, the power you want to make is really important. And as such, BMW put on a really good sized turbo for a car that's making 500 brake. But if you want to double that horsepower, that turbo's going to be working really hard, it's going to be spinning really fast, and it's going to be getting really hot. So you need to put a bigger turbo on. So what do? You either go hybrid or you go big single. And there's pros and cons to both of them, and I'm going to break through some of that now. On our shop car, we opted for the hybrid setup and we went with Mosselmann turbos. Now these things done exactly what they said they would. They told us that these will make big power up to about 40 PSI, and the power range that they specified we managed to hit. So very happy with Mosselmann. And on top of that, we've been running these turbos for quite a while now and we've had no issues whatsoever. This one in my hands actually going on a customer's car tomorrow, and I'm very happy with their products. But Mosselmann have told us what power these turbos are good for, and we want more. So we're going to be looking at an option that's not currently on the market yet, but we're helping test and get the development side done, and we're hoping to have those turbos on their second revision in about a week or so's time. Now those turbos are going to be stronger, they're going to be bigger, and they're going to be capable of making more boost and hopefully make more power as well. For daily use, I don't think them Mosselmanns are easy to beat. They are brilliant. We've got a lot of cars out there that are on standard engines, just running 99 RON on our same day unlocks, and they're making over 800 brake using those. And like I said, an engine is an air pump. A lot of people focus on the amount of boost they're running, but when it actually comes to the exhaust side, those turbos have got much bigger wheels in them and they flow a lot better, meaning that the engine is breathing easier at the same amount of boost. For making good power and taking stress off the engine, those hybrids are really good, especially if you stay within the power range that Mosselmann are quoting. If you want to make 1,000 brake, those Mosselmanns will do it, and they will do it reliably. If you want to push up to the numbers that we're at, where we're over 1,100 brake, then you're going to be maximising the potential of that Mosselmann and starting to come out of the efficiency range. So that's when we look at the bigger ones, as I mentioned, but the drivability could suffer, the lag on them could be bigger, and they could act in a way that's more similar to a single turbo. Trying to get a big turbo that drives like stock can really be a challenge, so only time will tell into what turbo that we prefer and find is best for use, but the Mosselmanns are going to be extremely hard to beat. Instead of hybrid turbos, you can go for the real big flex, popping open the bonnet, and there's a big single turbo sat there where there would normally be an airbox. That is a very, very cool setup, and it's got its pros and cons. In terms of things like I was mentioning with exhaust back pressure, those are the ultimate. You can make really, really good power with a single turbo, and the engine hasn't got to work as hard to do it. You can run less boost and hit the same numbers, and if you do push up the boost, you haven't got to worry about things like exhaust gas temps and cylinder temps getting as hot. For making big, big power, a single turbo just can't be beaten. But the daily drivability of it massively goes down. Those turbos can take thousands of RPMs later to come on boost instead of having that instant quick response. For you guys that like to drive on back roads or do track days, hybrids are really good for that type of driving, but for you guys that are interested in drag racing and just out and out power, the single turbo is going to be better to do it. The only thing with the single turbos is the kits are much more involved. The kits normally cost twice as much as the hybrids are costing. They take 2-3 times longer to fit. And like I said, daily drivability can suffer as well. But in terms of flex and something being cool and having the ultimate power, the single turbo is the way to do it. And like I say, once we've had our fun with the hybrids and the testing, and we've tested out the new ones that are going to be coming in, this car may actually go to a single setup, but I do really like the hybrid setup, and if the new turbos we can get can free up a couple of hundred brake extra than where we're at now, then you may see that it actually stays as it is. Who knows? Let's talk about modification 7. This is going to be a little bit more technical than the ones that have been previously mentioned, and that is a secondary controller. Now, there are a few on the market. There's actually 3 that come to mind straight away. And one of them is in my car, and that is the reflex controller. So why do you need a secondary controller? What is it doing? Well, in the case of my car, it is controlling my port injectors that we've added onto the inlet manifold and don't come as standard, and it's also controlling 2 extra low pressure fuel pumps that are sitting in my tank that again don't come with the car as standard. On top of that, we've got a flex fuel sensor wired into it, and if this car was on a single turbo, you can use that reflex as its boost controller. So that's what the reflex does. And why did we go with the reflex? Well, it has the best integration with MHD. Instead of having to flash your ECU and flash the reflex for what you want, you can literally do it all through the ECU. And if you do things like unplug one of your port injectors, you get an engine light just like it was there from factory. A great bit of technology. But when we had all that fitted and we installed it all, BootMod didn't have their option, which is the Rev 2 board. Now, I'm yet to get my hands on one in person. We have mapped them remotely, but it's very similar to the Reflex, but it's got more features on it. They've really gone to town on it. Wheel height, if you want to run NOS on it, you can have coolant pressure on it, you can put EGTs on it. You think of it, you can wire it into that BootMod Rev 2. So it's similar to the Reflex, but bespoke for guys that are going to be on the BootMod platform, where Reflex, you can, within reason, use it on any platform. Now, this one is sort of invalid in my opinion now, since these 2 options are out there with such good integration, but you could always run something like a Max ECU as well. Now, we have a turbo bike that runs on Max ECU, and it's great software, but Max ECU doesn't integrate with the main engine ECU, and when you can get everything talking and communicating better, you're going to have a much better time. Now, that Reflex, we've got a plug and play loom fitted on it, and like I say, we're using it mainly for fueling. So if you want to go and run big boost, then you need to get the fueling to match it, and the OEM setup just is not going to cut it. Modification 8, fueling. For you guys that don't know, Once you're stage 2 and you're doing flex fuel, 800 brake, your fuel system is pretty much maxed out. You may see that your high pressure pumps are on the limit, your injection window is being exceeded, there isn't much wiggle room once you get up to that level. So you go put on a bigger turbo, you go push up the boost, and your OEM fueling system just isn't going to be able to hack it. You're either going to have to add in the meth injection, or like we're talking about in this case, the port ethanol injection. Now, we preferred the port injection to just having the meth because you've got better control. You've got actual injectors there instead of just having something spraying constantly. You've got injector duty cycles, you can maintain your pressures, you've got a lot of control on that system. So anyway, let's get into it. We've actually ran 2 fueling systems on this car. The first one just split into the OEM fuel line with a second Walbro 450, and we had some 750 injectors. That means there's just one fuel line going up to the front of the car, and it's connecting into our DI system and our PI system. For you guys that don't know, DI is direct injection, the OEM system, and PI is the injectors that we've added in on the manifold. Now, the problem that we see with this is once we really pushed the boost up and we was well past that 1,000 brake mark, we started to see that that low pressure line was getting dips in pressure. So we upgraded the fuel pump. We put in a Walbro 520 instead, and it made no difference. And that's because it wasn't actually the fuel pumps that were lacking, it was the fuel line. Trying to feed 12 injectors off of that one OEM fuel line, it just wasn't enough. So we made some big changes. We ended up fitting a different top hat that had 2 auxiliary low pressure pumps, and we split the systems completely. That means the OEM system is completely untouched now. The OEM pump feeds the OEM injectors on the OEM line, but then we've got another 2 auxiliary pumps that go through their own fuel line up into a regulator and up to our fuel rail. That means that all the time now we're holding full pressure on our DI system, and then our PI, as the boost increases, our fuel pressure increases with it. By putting this new setup in, we've gone from having a fuel system that was getting dips in fuel pressure to one that is holding pressure, and the injectors are only working at about 60% duty, and that's on the DI and the PI system, meaning we've got tons of headroom. And if we want more power in the future, we can put in bigger injectors, we can switch out one of the current pumps for a bigger pump, so we've always got the headroom for fuel in there. So for you guys that want to be around 1,000 brake, the first option that I talked about, that is going to be perfect for you. If you actually want a future proof, or you're going for a big single and you're going to be going past that 1,000 brake mark, then split the systems, and you're going to find that the tuning on it is much better, the reliability on it is better, and everything is just going to be much more stable. There were supposed to be 8 modifications to this video, but there's actually a 9th one that I should have thought of at the beginning, and that is the inlet manifold. So we've only ever seen a problem once, but it wasn't even on a big power build, it was on a stock turbo car. And if you have a look at this manifold, we've got this metal core and we've got these plastic parts, but they're just metal tabs that are folded over. This thing's not bonded, it's not solid, and at big boost levels, it can actually split apart. So you can put port injection into this OEM manifold, but if you're going to start pushing big boost, which you're going to need to make the sort of numbers we're talking about, you're going to need an aftermarket manifold. So on our car, we have the Mishimoto manifold, and the reason we went for that is because we could have our port injection and our meth together, but at this point, every single radiator, the rad guard, the manifold, everything on that car is Mishimoto now. It really helps keep it cool. So just as a little extra, you want to be considering doing a manifold on top of the already mentioned modifications. There we have it. That's the modifications needed for making big power on one of these G80s. When you see these super fast cars out there and you're wondering what they've had to do to get there, that is what they are doing. So the jump from going from a 700-800 brake car to adding a couple of hundred brake in is huge, because you're changing turbos, the engine, you're changing the gearbox, you're adding in a big fueling system to get you that additional power. So if you're trying to make the most power, then you've got to spend the money. But as with most things, what you find is that the more power you try to make on a car, the more expensive that it gets. So the best bang for buck is a VT700 brake package, and that's our same day unlock, our downpipe and our mid pipe. Those cars are absolutely rapid, but for you guys that want to be a little bit different, you want a bit extra, you want a car that accelerates like a Bugatti Chiron, then that's what's required for you to get there.